This is a new town, Nicaraguan style, built on a former cotton plantation on the plains in the west of the country. These newly built prefabricated houses are homes to a community of displaced farm workers, driven from their lands in the mountains in 2001. They're known as the coffee refugees. They're just coming out of a long period of hardship. The Christian charity Nuevas Esperanzas, which helps rural communities in Nicaragua find ways to lift themselves out of poverty, has stood by the coffee workers in their struggle.
After many, many years of waiting, we finally managed to resolve a very difficult legal situation with the land, passing the land by an Act of Parliament to the local mayor, and from there it's much easier to divide it up and to pass the land over to the individual families.
Maxima Castillo is a mother of 2 boys.
Aquí son los cuartos, donde dormimos, donde duermen los niños.
She's really proud of her 3-room home on its plot of land.
¿Y acá? Y aquí dormimos nosotros. Entran pues. Aquí.
It's a big improvement on the plastic sheeting that gave her family shelter when they first arrived here.
Era horrible.
Okay, this is where they used to live for the last 6 years. Whenever there was heavy rain, everything in the floor would just be completely flooded.
And we're just looking at their home where they've lived for 6 years, that it just is no comparison. If we try to compare this with anything that we live in, I don't think words can describe it.
Today is a big day. Maxima is taking the boys, Danielle, who's 8, and his 16-year-old brother, Minor, on a trip to show them where they've come from and the difficulties they faced on the road to La Palmerita. It's taken all day to drive to the workers' cooperative at La Isla, high in the mountains above the city of Matagalpa. It may seem like a long journey, but it's nothing compared to the one that faced Maxima when she and the boys left here 6 years ago.
The coffee became one of the, very, very cheap, and it wasn't enough to pay the people and to pay all the production of the coffee to get it done.
At the time, the World Bank was encouraging countries in the developing world to look to coffee as a crop on which to build their futures. The plan was so successful that the price in countries like Nicaragua, which already depended on selling coffee, plummeted.
There were some people who was working for nothing, just to have a place to live, and expecting that in the future the coffee price will increase, and therefore they will get paid in a month time or a year time or something like that, but it didn't happen.
Tens of thousands of coffee workers like Maxima were left in poverty. Evicted from their homes when banks repossessed the bankrupt plantations, or simply leaving because there was no work, no food and no future, they poured out of the mountains and marched on the government in Managua. It's 6 hours away from here by car, but it took them a full year to get there.
Cuando nosotros emprendimos el camino para Managua, tuvimos muchos contratiempos. Entonces los quedábamos en una parte, los quedábamos en otra parte, así donde los cansábamos de caminar, ahí los quedábamos, porque los niños se los cansaban. En el camino habían unos que se enfermaban, hubieron unos que se los murieron, en el camino se los murió un viejito.
En vez de paramos algunos buses, le decían los adultos que llevaran a los niños, que los dejaran donde ellos quisieran, y los dejaban más adelante. Entonces ahí los dejaban, los adelantaban a nosotros.
It's hard to picture what would make people leave fertile, productive land like this to live on the roadside, at the mercy of the weather and on the handouts of strangers. But leave they did. Maxima, with Minor just 8 years old at the time, at her side, and Danielle, who was little more than a babe in arms.
Camionetas de verdura, y los decían que nosotros agarráramos lo que quisiéramos. Entonces nosotros agarramos lechuga, tomate, cebolla.
They were actually living on the road. They were walking during the day and stopping where the night got them.
En un lugar que le llaman las calabazas. Ahí tuvimos un día porque la gente de allí pues no los quiso. No quiso que nosotros estuviéramos ahí y dijeron que los iban a golpear. Entonces nosotros salimos muy de mañanita.
They spent 3 months at this busy junction en route to the capital. When they arrived, they camped here, outside the Parliament buildings, until the government granted them access to the land at La Palmerita.
Por ejemplo, es uno de los lugares donde esta gente vino a protestar cuando se dieron los grandes problemas de las quiebras de los bancos, el fracaso completo que se dio al cultivo del café, trajo a toda esta gente hasta Managua para lograr ver si en un futuro podían realizar algunas actividades propias que los llevaran a un futuro mejor.
Y entonces él nos preguntó qué queríamos nosotros. Entonces nosotros le dijimos que queríamos que los ayudara, pues, que los diera un pedacito de tierra para trabajar y que queríamos pues un plan techo o algo pues que él los diera para cubrirlos del sol y de la lluvia.
Dormíamos debajo de los palos. Nos regalaron unas casitas de plástico. Fue mejor porque allí no los mojábamos y debajo de los palos los mojábamos.
Nothing in Latin America is ever straightforward. Land right issues are complex, and charitable funds are hard to unlock until they're fully resolved. That's meant no money to build proper housing, to drill wells and to install sanitation, until now. In fact, the whole project nearly collapsed during the years of negotiation, but one charity managed to keep funding available.
Our work started here 5 years ago. It coincided with the start of our charity shops in Lantern Major, and we came out here and made our first donation, and the work has gradually progressed. It's been a really hard battle, but we thank the Lord we're through in the end.
Now that some of the basic building is complete, Nuevas Esperanzas is tackling the next stage of development.
It's a fairly generally established fact that sanitation projects can have a much more dramatic effect on a reduction of waterborne diseases than necessarily water projects on their own. So our focus right now is on building the rest of the latrines needed, and after that we hope to be able to make some significant improvements in the water supplies.
The 500 hectares of land here is divided into sizable plots to allow a degree of self-sufficiency. There are also areas of ground for the community to start a commercial market garden. And for Maxima, this feels like a rich land on which to grow her young family.
Pues está linda porque tenemos casa. porque la casa es de planchetas y la casa que teníamos era de plástico.
Y ahora porque tenemos esta casita, que si no fuera por el proyecto no tuviéramos nada aquí.
La Palmerita may seem basic by standards in the UK, and it's true the land will take time to fully cultivate. But what it provides more than anything is hope. New hope for a community of workers whose trust had been shattered by global economics. What's needed now is more support to allow the infrastructure of this village to be completed so that these people can get on with rebuilding their lives.
Well, it's very interesting to think about where La Palmerita will go in the future, and actually we have the advantage here of seeing a number of similar projects which have been done, particularly after Hurricane Mitch in 1998. It's very interesting to see some of those more mature projects that started off in exactly the same conditions but now have a really well-established community infrastructure, lots of trees, streets, everything that you would expect to see in a rural community.
Live over there. Possibly. I can look at her eyes and it makes it all worthwhile.
I think they are still struggling in their life, wherever they are.
Y a través de su lucha lograron conseguir un terreno para poder vivir, para poder sembrar y poder criar a su familia. Sin embargo, hasta ahí no se solucionan los problemas.
Por tus llagas liberado, Señor. Por tus llagas fui yo salvado, Señor. Soy feliz, pues todo lo puedo en Él. Pues todo lo puedo en Él. Pues todo lo puedo.